The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend began with unexpected attention around Red Bull Racing. The team, which has dominated the Formula One pit lane for years with the fastest and most efficient pit stops, suddenly found themselves at the center of technical trouble. What happened was shocking to many fans and paddock insiders alike, especially considering Red Bull's usually flawless execution during race weekends. For the past 6 seasons, they've won the DHL Fastest Pit Stop Award, but last weekend saw them drop dramatically in pit stop rankings. In fact, 3 of their stops ranked 38th, 39th, and 40th out of 42 total pit stops. That is nearly unthinkable from the reigning world champions. The main reason behind this unexpected pit stop failure was a technical glitch in the traffic light system, which helps manage the timing and release of the car during a pit stop. The issue was traced to a wiring problem inside the gantry above the car. It may sound like a small fault, but in Formula One, where milliseconds count, such a malfunction can turn a winning strategy into a disaster. Red Bull engineers took the gantry apart slowly and carefully, trying to isolate the issue. Eventually, they discovered a loose wire was the culprit behind the delayed pit stop signals, which affected the smooth release of the car from the pit box. Ahead of the first practice session in Saudi Arabia, Red Bull worked late to fix the issue, rebuilding their system and rechecking all electrical components to make sure such a mistake wouldn't happen again. By the time the cars rolled out onto the Jeddah Corniche circuit, the team appeared more confident in their equipment, though everyone knew all eyes would be watching to see if their pit stop reputation could be restored. Alongside addressing this technical hiccup, Red Bull also made some last-minute changes to the RB21 car ahead of FP1. This was the final race of a demanding triple-header, so most teams were keeping things conservative. But Red Bull still introduced one specific visible update: extra cooling ducts at the rear of the car, near the A of the Honda logo on the engine cover. In the intense heat of Saudi Arabia, where ambient temperatures reached 29 degrees and track surface temperatures soared, past 60-degree cooling becomes critical. These duct changes are small on the surface, but they can have a significant effect on how the car performs over longer runs and during qualifying. Cooling management is especially vital in Jeddah because of the unique demands of the circuit. Unlike many traditional tracks, Jeddah is a high-speed street circuit with 27 corners, rapid transitions, and 3 DRS zones. It pushes cars to their limit and challenges drivers with walls just inches away on all sides. Keeping tire temperatures under control while making sure the engine and brakes stay within safe limits is one of the biggest engineering puzzles during this race weekend. Max Verstappen was brilliant at this track in previous seasons. His pole lap in 2023 was nearly perfect, and this weekend Red Bull will hope for a repeat of that performance. But they know how difficult this circuit can be. Even the smallest misstep can result in disaster. The track's narrow nature, combined with its high speeds, leaves very little margin for error. Jeddah is one of those circuits where drivers must be absolutely precise. A great lap requires total commitment, especially through the first sector. This part of the track is all about positioning the car millimeter perfect between the barriers. If a driver misses the line into one corner, it affects the whole rhythm for the next few turns. In 2021, Max himself had a moment where he was on one of the greatest qualifying laps of the season until he got too greedy at the final corner and hit the wall. Other drivers have also learned the hard way how punishing this circuit can be. Mick Schumacher once had a crash that took out all 4 corners of his car after a small mistake through the middle sector. Lance Stroll got a bit too close to the inside wall and damaged his suspension, which sent him off into the barriers. Even Lando Norris clipped the inside at the final turn one year and paid the price. It's a reminder that pushing hard in Jeddah comes with real risks. Because of these challenges, car setup becomes incredibly important. Teams must find the right balance between straight-line speed and downforce. You need enough grip to handle the corners, but not so much that you compromise your top speed on the long straights. That's why updates like the one Red Bull made to the rear cooling ducts matter. They allow the team to manage heat without having to open up the bodywork too much, which would hurt aerodynamic efficiency. Another important element this weekend is how teams manage their tire temperatures. In Saudi Arabia, the track surface is smooth, but the temperature is brutal. When the surface reaches 60 degrees Celsius, it's very easy to overheat the tires. If that happens, drivers lose grip quickly and can't push as hard as they want to. Red Bull is known for managing their tires better than most teams, but they're not immune to heat-related issues, especially in high degradation conditions. Red Bull's strategy has always been built around maximizing every detail. Their upgrades, even small ones, are carefully planned and timed. Making any changes right before FP1 usually means something significant was identified in the simulations or during the previous race. Whether it's cooling, suspension tweaks, or software updates, Red Bull always looks for ways to stay ahead, even by the tiniest of margins. As for the rest of the field, teams like Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, and Aston Martin have also brought updates, though many are minor. Everyone is trying to manage the triple-header wear and tear on the cars, especially on components like the power unit and gearbox, which must last multiple race weekends. With limited engine allocations for the season, reliability has become a big concern. Back at Red Bull, the mood in the garage ahead of FP1 was focused but alert. Everyone knew they had to bounce back quickly after the pit stop issues last weekend. Red Bull doesn't like being out of the spotlight unless it's for winning. A problem like that, especially something so technical and basic, could have ripple effects. But fixing it quickly shows the strength of their engineering team. They didn't panic. They analyzed, adjusted, and got back to work. Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez both looked ready heading into practice. The opening laps in FP1 would be crucial, not just to validate the cooling updates and confirm the pit stop systems were working correctly, but also to see how the car behaved on this challenging circuit. Initial feedback from the drivers seemed positive. Verstappen reported strong grip levels and good balance, and Perez mentioned improvements in the rear-end stability compared to the last race. The team's decision to run some long stints early in FP1 also gave them valuable data that allowed them to simulate different tire strategies for qualifying and race conditions. The heat meant that Red Bull needed to be extra careful not to overwork the soft compound tires, especially if they wanted to avoid degradation in the final laps of the race. But beyond all the technical details, the big question remains: why did Red Bull make these last-minute changes? Was it simply a reaction to the heat? Was it part of a bigger plan for the weekend? Or was it because they spotted a potential weakness in their setup that needed urgent fixing? Red Bull doesn't usually show its hand unless it has to. Their philosophy is to stay one step ahead while revealing as little as possible. Making changes before FP1 can sometimes indicate a weakness, but it can also be a clever play to test something experimental under race weekend conditions. Other teams will now be studying the RB21 closely, trying to understand if these updates give Red Bull a critical edge, or if they're just damage control after a rare pit lane misfire. As FP1 progressed, Red Bull's lap times were solid, with both drivers placing comfortably in the top 3 throughout the session. The updates seemed to work well under the scorching Jeddah sun, and both Verstappen and Perez were able to push their cars without signs of overheating or balance issues. Engineers monitored temperatures closely, especially in sectors 2 and 3, where slower corners put more strain on the power unit cooling systems. Red Bull's new duct near the Honda branding proved to be a clever solution, offering a little more breathing room without sacrificing aerodynamic efficiency. But while Red Bull may have patched the pit stop system and adjusted their cooling, questions still lingered around the paddock. Why were these issues happening in the first place? A team of Red Bull's caliber doesn't normally deal with such reliability slip-ups. Was it just bad luck? Or was the pressure starting to build behind the scenes? Let's not forget, 2025 is shaping up to be one of the most competitive seasons in recent memory. McLaren, with Lando Norris leading the charge, has emerged as a true title contender. Ferrari, despite internal challenges, remains a threat on any given weekend. Mercedes, under George Russell's leadership, has been steady and opportunistic, and Aston Martin, while still looking to find consistency, has moments of brilliance through drivers like Fernando Alonso. The margins between the top teams are tighter than ever. That's what makes every little error so important. A minor wiring issue might seem like an isolated incident, but when the competition is this close, small mistakes add up. One pit stop delay can drop a driver from first to fourth. One overheating sensor can force a car.